Missing out on your summer holidays this year? Well, why not go on a sound journey with Maddie Moat and discover the exciting sounds of science and nature from the comfort of your own home? In each podcast episode, Maddie is joined by experts to guide you on all kinds of journeys into a beehive, down the plug hole, or even up into a cloud. And along the way, you'll help Maddie create a new piece of music made from the noises you discover. Listen out for interesting sounds as you go along. You'll be going to some very interesting places because sound explorers can go anywhere. The first 5 episodes are available to listen to now, so what are you waiting for? Just search for Maddie's Sound Explorers wherever you listen to your podcasts. Welcome along to a brand new episode of the Fun Kids Science Weekly. This is the show that tries to find out all the really awesome secrets that are lurking out in the universe. My name's Dan. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining us on this trip through science. This week we'll talk about something terrifying in space that's happening right now. Also, some scientists have done research into a shark that was around 23 million years ago. You can find out how big it is in a bit. And I'll answer some of your questions as well. Today they're on talking, lights, and why things hurt. We'll do that in just a sec. First, let's catch up with one of our favourite geniuses on the show. This is K-Mystery.
K-Mystery. Elements in danger.
Hey, I'm Karina.
And I'm K-Mystery. Chemistry superhero.
She's kind of my alter ego. Yeah, I know. Pretty unique, right?
You know what else is unique?
The way I can fit my whole fist in my mouth?
No, and ew. No, I'm talking about the elements and gadgets like mobile phones. They're unique too, and we need to protect some of them because they're elements in danger.
How am I meant to protect a chemical element? Lock it in a safe? And anyway, what elements are we talking about?
Well, there's a bunch of them, and one of the very special ones is called yttrium.
Yttri what?
Yttrium. Come on, I'll show you. We're deep inside your phone. Can you see the tiny wires around the circuits?
Not so tiny. They're getting bigger. Whoa, like silver snakes.
Say hello to yttrium. It's what we call a transition metal. They're strong but bendy metals which make them brilliant for making wires like these. In certain forms of yttrium can also burn with a super bright light and have been used in our televisions and to make streetlights bright. In fact, you'll find them in everything from solar panels to ceramics, and it all started in 1787. Hold on.
Where are we? Who's that man picking through those stones?
We're in Sweden, and that guy is Carl Axel Arrhenius. He's a chemist and has just discovered yttrium. This quarry is in a place called Italy, so that's where yttrium gets its name.
Aha!
Today, yttrium is mined all over the world. There are large deposits in China, Russia, India, and Australia. It's even been found in moon rocks and the human body.
But if it's found in lots of places, how comes it's so rare?
Well, it's never found on its own. You know how sometimes your headphones get all tangled up?
Tell me about it. But what's that got to do with yttrium?
Imagine 100 different headphone cables all mixed up together. It would take you a long time to pick yours up. Yttrium is the same. It's only found mixed up with other rare elements. It takes a lot of effort to separate them all out. And wherever you are, you won't find large quantities. Sadly, yttrium is another element that's set to run out.
So, what are we going to do?
There's plenty you can do. More gadgets mean more elements needed. So simply buying fewer phones and tablets, well, we can start preserving the resources that we have, sharing and reusing technology you don't need anymore, and recycling them when they're broken. Some of these rare elements can be recovered and used again.
So, you're saying if I help out, I'm kind of being a chemistry superhero too, just like you?
No one is just like me, Karina. But you'll be the next best thing.
Thanks, K-Mystery.
Chemistry, Elements in Danger, with support from the Royal Society of Chemistry. Find out more and get hands-on with chemistry at funkidslive.com/chemistry.
Let's answer some of your questions then. Remember, if you've got anything sciencey that you want answered, something that's just niggling away at your brain, maybe you've gone back to school and you've heard something on the playground, or one of your teachers has told you something and you thought, hang on a second, that can't be right. To check once and for all if you're telling the truth or some porcupines, I'm going to have to ask my mate Dan. Well, you can do just that. Just leave it as a review for the show over on Apple Podcasts. That is what the brilliantly named Science Weekly fan number 1 has done. Favourite name so far. They have asked me, why did humans evolve to talk when no other animal properly did? Well, I mean, it's a huge question, one that we could spend a whole episode answering. Now, researchers found that early humans, almost 2 million years ago, they started to make stone axes and tools in a complex way that no animal had done before. And around this time, what was strange is that humans also began to talk. Now, studies have shown that other primates have the physical capability to talk. They've got something like a voice box, and they can make noises. They have the parts, but they can't properly do it. It's probably because we have bigger, smarter brains, and because humans, more than any other creature, have to communicate with quite a lot of people at one time. But as I say, this is such a huge topic, and no one really knows properly about it because it happened millions and millions of years ago. They're only ideas. I tell you what, maybe I'll try and find like a proper expert to help us out with it. Next up, we have a question from Leighton DeBoss. Also a very good name. Leighton asks, why do lights go different colours when electricity probably doesn't even have a colour? Well, lights that change colour are normally called LEDs. They are light-emitting diodes. And in there, they've got a special type of kit that uses different materials and chemicals that when charged, when they've got electricity running through them, they make photons, which are light particles at different wavelengths. And different wavelengths of light give different colours. So that's how an LED and a light gives you a red or a blue or a cyan or a yellow, anything like that, Leighton DeBoss. That's how lights go different colours. And finally, Gwen, who is all the way over in Ohio, the USA, wants to know, why do you feel pain when you get hurt? And what's the point of pain? Now, when you're injured or sick or you've had an accident, the nerve cells in your body, they send millions of messages to your brain about what's happening. Then your brain takes those messages and makes you feel pain. It does this not because it's nasty, but because it wants you to pay attention to what needs fixing. Imagine in a car, maybe a light comes on the dashboard that says the tyre is punctured or something like that, and it might make your parents drive more carefully to try and not make it worse. It's a little bit like that. Pain is your brain's way of telling you to pay attention to a part of your body so it can fix itself. It's a brilliant question though, Gwen. Thank you so much for it. If you've got something sciencey that you want answered on the Science Weekly, which is the place to get it done, you need to leave a review for us over on Apple Podcasts. It's the Fun Kids Science Weekly. Now, 2020 has been a strange year, what with people being stuck at home and in lockdown and not really sure what's going on. And it turns out people have tried to help their mental health and they're figuring things out by going outside and taking in nature, taking in trees more. Now, to tell us loads more about this, we've got self-professed tree enthusiast Joe Middleton from the Woodland Trust on the line. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm really, really well, thank you. So, when did the Woodland Trust first started to kind of notice this is what people were doing during lockdown, that they were trying to reconnect themselves more with nature?
I realised when I started walking around some of our woods, I manage quite a few of our sites in the west of England, and all of a sudden we realised, although there was a lockdown, there was nowhere to go, but people were allowed to do their daily exercise. And a lot of people were drawn to our green spaces in our woods, which were open, they were free, and everyone started to kind of realise the importance of our green spaces to our health and our well-being in what effectively has been a pretty crazy time over the last 6 months.
Quite simply, or maybe not quite simply at all really, why have people connected with nature, do you think? Is it as simple as, well, I'm stuck indoors, I wanna make the most of what I can't quite find around me? Or do you think maybe there's something quite old school about it, that people are keeping in touch with what they once maybe lost?
There's lots of different ways of looking at it. There is scientific evidence that it is good for us. There's loads of research that's been carried out on the effects on our mental and our physical health. And I think we all knew physically how good it was to get out and walk and jog in the park or go and play football or hang out with your friends. But I think mentally we've realised that they are our refuges, our woodlands and our green spaces. It's inherent in our DNA from thousands and thousands of years ago that we love being outside. The colour of green is good for us. The sound of birdsong is good for us. The sound of running water, the sound of trees rustling is just good for our souls. And I think it's given us time to reconnect, realise, as we've had a bit more time to realise what's important to us, that actually these woodlands, these green spaces are free. They're there for all of us to explore. And we've realised that, connecting to wildlife and to nature, we are in the middle of what is essentially it's a climate emergency. The government, every council's declared a climate emergency, and the benefits of trees to our health and our well-being have never been more important. Both from the air that they clean, carbon that they store, the water that they clean, to our day-to-day mental health and just being happier, more connected to nature and doing our bit for other creatures, and also realising the goodness of just being out and being part of this planet can do for us.
Now, things like that, reasons like that, are quite hard to properly get a grip on, aren't they? I mean, or they make us happier. They're quite good for us. Whereas there's a lot of benefits of trees that maybe we don't hear about how they help air, how they help the environment with carbon, how they help our rivers and our wildlife. Joe, can you just try and run us through some of the benefits that trees have to the ecosystem all around us?
Wowzers. I will give it a go. So it's weird because they do so much. So where shall I start? Okay, the air. They turn the carbon dioxide that we breathe out into oxygen, number one. That's what I remember learning when I was doing my science lessons. And that's pretty damn amazing. They naturally do it. They can't help but do it. They just create oxygen for us. They shelter us from the sun. They shelter animals from the sun in a very simple term. But in terms of if you live in a city or a town, then they shelter us from the heat and they shelter us from the rain. And that actually means they slow down water. So they stop areas from flooding by slowing down water, whether it's on a farmer's hedgerow and all that water's flooding down the field and the trees and the roots hold it back and soak it up, or whether it's in your city and the water's pouring down on your streets and actually the rain's capturing it in its leaves and in its canopy and slowly letting it go back down into the drains. They mask noise, they cool our urban environments. So they actually, stop the sun from baking our streets during in the hot summer weather, if we ever get a good summer, that is. But they also absorb pollution. So all those cars that are zooming past in the cities and in the towns and even in some of the villages these days, every one of those delivery drivers comes along and the air actually is cleaned by trees. They take up the particles of carbon and soot that are deposited by exhausts and they actually soak that up in their bark and in their soils and the trees and they turn it back into something good. I mean, it's pretty crazy that they do all these things. If someone invented a tree and said, hey, I've got this thing, it's going to sort out your breathing, it's going to sort out your pollution problem, it's going to sort out everything as well as your happiness and your habitat, it's going to provide a home for wildlife. I mean, they'd be earning a lot of money, but we've got millions of them around us. We just need a few more. We need more trees. And we need to get closer to these trees and realizing the benefits they do for us, both, for all the money and all the sort of services they provide to our ecosystem, but also all the benefits they provide to us and the wildlife around us.
Now, it's amazing that humans have been closer to trees through the last few months. What tends to happen sometimes when humans do get close to stuff is we can get a little bit destructive, things get a little bit chaotic. I'll be honest, sometimes, Joe, when I see a tree, I will pull a leaf off of it. Now, I tell you this because I'm wondering if you can just remind us what we need to remember when we are around wildlife. How careful do we need to be? Can we climb trees? Is that good for them? Is there things that we should do to help out the wildlife while we are in the Woodland Trust's forests?
Well, we did notice that with all that increase in people over the last 6 months, particularly in the kind of peak month of May, when people couldn't go other places, they couldn't go on holiday, they couldn't go to the shops or the arcades, or they couldn't go to the theme parks, trees became full of people. And we did notice a fair bit of damage, unfortunately, on a few places. But the things to remember are that, trees are important. And, do what you would to another human being with a tree. You wouldn't pull someone's hair out. So, it's not the end of the world if you take a leaf, as long as you make sure there's thousands and thousands of other ones. But if you want to climb a tree, go climb that tree, man. I mean, trees are there to be climbed. The gnarly old ways their branches grow, and the incredible ways that the bark and the leaves are structured, it's perfect for a climbing frame. It's a natural climbing frame. We've been doing it for thousands of years. We got to make sure that, if there's one tree and there's thousands of people climbing that one tree, then we could probably do with a few extras. So you can apply for free trees from the Woodland Trust, plant a few extra. You can go on our website, woodlandtrust.org.uk, anytime, and find out about how to get free trees for your school or your community group. We just give them away like that, completely free, kind of crazy. But we need more trees. That's a good way to start. Plant a few more. And if you've got trees in your local green space, then just, enjoy them, explore them, but make sure you treat them like any other friend. You don't use them or abuse them. You just make the most of them and all the benefits that they have.
What's the general plan, the grand plan with that, Joe? Why do we need to ask, this might sound a bit forceful, why do we need to ask you to plant trees? Why can't you just go and kind of plant them wherever you see, wherever there is green space?
So we do need certain areas of land for wildflowers, and trees can shade them sometimes. We need certain areas of land to grow our food because we need to eat. Can't just eat all the trees. That would be pretty difficult. So land has lots of different uses. Some people need to live in a certain area. Some people need to grow food, and farmers need to grow. You can combine these things. You can combine, hedgerows in areas. You can combine agroforestry, which is where farmers plant trees and then have crops or animals growing and living and eating underneath them, which is what we're just suddenly discovering, the amazing world of how we combine trees with our everyday lives.
Once more, just remind us what we need to do, where we need to go if we want to see you plant some trees for us.
If you want to have a look on the Woodland Trust website, woodlandtrust.org.uk, have a look at the trees that we offer to any school or community group, completely free. You can plant them in your school grounds. You can plant them in the parks once you chat to the guys in the council and get their permission. You can't just plant trees anywhere. The land is owned by someone. It could be valuable for farming. It could be valuable for growing food on. It could be valuable for wildflowers or other species that aren't necessarily wooded. So we don't want 100% of the UK to be completely wooded. We'd have nowhere to live and grow and have our houses. But there is only 13%. 13% of the UK that is wooded. Now that is a massive decline on where we used to be a few thousand years ago. So we want to try and double this. We want to get to 26%, and we think that will go a massive way to helping to contribute to climate change, to the loss of all the animals and plants that are suffering huge declines at the moment. And we think it'd be really good for people and for pollution and all the problems that we're facing with flooding. And we think it'd be really good to create, these massive living laboratories full of climbing frames and where people can go that's free to enjoy. So have a look. Trees seem to be one of the big answers to the problems we are facing at the moment.
Brilliant. So that's woodlandtrust.org.uk. Joe, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Now for this week's Dangerous Dan, we're talking about something that is happening right now that's just a little bit terrifying. Have you heard about this? It's been in the news. Over the last week or so, we've had asteroids flying just a little bit too close to the Earth for my liking. Last Sunday, a space rock the size of a tower shot past the Earth, moving at a speed of 8 miles a second, which means it could travel from London, where I am, to New York in America in just 7 minutes. The asteroid is known as 2010 FR, catchy name. Then we had another one as well, 2020 PT4, brilliantly good name. That flew past. It was even closer and even faster than the one before. It travelled at 7 miles a second. It was a bit smaller though. It was about the size of 2 lorries that went past us. And then this week, NASA is saying that another asteroid is going to pass. This one is the size of the London Eye, like a gigantic Ferris wheel. It'll travel at 24,000 miles an hour. It's called Asteroid 2020 QL2. It'll pass by 4.2 million miles away, which sounds far, but NASA classed that as a close approach, worthwhile enough to let us know what's happening. And if for some reason it heads towards our Earth, you don't need to worry. You'll be fine. Scientists say it'll probably burn up in the atmosphere if it does that, and it'll cause minimal damage. But still, asteroids are massive, and massive things are dangerous, so they're all going on the Dangerous Dan list. Let's find out about some of our favourite inventors on the show now, some geniuses who have made stuff which help you get around every single day. Let's find out more with Sir Sidney McSprocket.
Sir Sidney McSprocket's Great British Minds.
Oh, hello, Sir Sidney McSprocket here. Now, I've just been writing in my journal because I came up with the most tremendous idea in my sleep and I didn't want to forget it. It was a ship made of chips. Or was it chips shaped like ships? Oh, probably the latter. Oh, I can't remember at all now. It seems like I'm the one who has missed the boat today. Now, talking of boats, I wanted to introduce you to 2 fascinating British inventors who both took to the seas for their creations. Our first British mind is William Jenkins. He was an inventor and manufacturer in Victorian times, and one of his creations was showcased at the Great Exhibition in 1851, a place where the latest innovations of the day were presented to the public. Now, William Jenkins must have loved to sail, and he must have loved playing the piano, because his invention was a folding piano complete with a collapsible keyboard. I mean, it wasn't obligatory to put it on a yacht, I suppose. Any tight space might do. It might sound like a very silly invention, but yacht pianos were actually very popular. Remember, the first record player wasn't invented until 1877, so in 1851, musical instruments were an important source of entertainment, even at sea. A more modern Great British mind who has been inspired by the sea is Lucy Hughes. Her inspiration started when she had an idea while studying product design at the University of Sussex. Now, many of us enjoy eating fish. I'm very partial to a crab stick myself. The fish on our supermarket shelves goes through a lot of different processes before we put it in our basket, and Lucy thought about all those waste materials in the fish processing industry that were just being thrown away. Things like fish skins and scales. Over 170,000 tons of the stuff every year. She could see that far from being rubbish, this waste had lots of very useful proteins that might make a very flexible material. It took over 100 experiments, some of which she did on her own cooker. Now there's dedication. Before she discovered that if she added an ingredient called agar, the proteins would bind together, and hey presto, Marina Tex was created. The new material she created behaves like plastic, but, and here's the super clever part, biodegrades within 6 weeks. We all know how important it is to reduce our use of plastics, and so you can see how marvellous this new material will be. Well done, Lucy! So, there we have 2 very inspiring great British minds, and in both cases, it all started with an idea. Just imagine how many good ideas get lost along the way, though. Maybe you don't have a journal like me, but if you come up with a good idea, you could use an app on your phone or a notepad on a computer to note it down. That way, it'll be easy to find again. It could be the start of something great. Oh, never mind ideas. I better find some biscuits. That'll be Aunt Florence round for tea. Tatty bye for the now.
Sir Sidney McSprocket's Great British Minds. With support from the Royal Commission 1851. Find out more at funkidslive.com/McSprocket.
It's time for this week's Science in the News. The new sensor for the world's largest camera has been tested this week. It's been tested using broccoli. The new 3.2 gigapixel camera, it's going to be fitted to a space observation centre in Chile. It will take pictures to help us understand more about the universe. And to test it, the scientists, they took a picture of a Romanesco broccoli to see how it captured all the detail. Look up a Romanesco broccoli online, by the way. It's striking in its colours and its designs. You can see why they've used that to test a camera. It's not as ridiculous as it sounds. Also, 5 baby gorillas have been born in 6 weeks in Uganda. The Ugandan Wildlife Service has declared an official baby boom. 7 have been born so far this year. There were only 3 in the whole of last year, and there's just over 1,000 of the species left on the planet. The thing is, the scientists don't quite know why there's a baby boom with these gorillas right now. And finally, shark researchers have worked out how big a Megalodon was. Now, a Megalodon is a huge kind of sharky animal. They lived about 23 million to 3 million years ago, and it's the inspiration between some massive monster sharks that you might see in the movies. And by comparing living relatives and using mathematical methods, they've figured out that most Megalodons are about 16 meters long, which is 3 times bigger than a great white shark. And that is it for this week's Fun Kids Science Weekly. Thank you so much for listening to us. If you've got a sciencey question that you want answered, you need to leave it as a review for the show over on Apple Podcasts. That's the only way to get that done. You can send us an email as well. Click on the contact form at funkidslive.com. While you're on Apple Podcasts, by the way, it's a brilliant way that you can hear all of the science podcasts and other podcasts that we have from Fun Kids. They're on there. They're on the free Fun Kids app. They're at funkidslive.com. And if you're in the UK, you can listen to Fun Kids. We're a children's radio station. Find us all around the country on your DAB digital radio, on that free Fun Kids app, and at funkidslive.com.